Welcome to the Skirted Professional Podcast, a place where women of all different walks of life come together to share their journeys and wisdom they've learned along the way. We are so excited that you're part of this community. We hope you always leave this space feeling encouraged, inspired, and a little less alone. The Skirted Professional is brought to you by C Saucy, a medical apparel company that specializes in modern scrub skirt sets for the working woman. Their goal is to give every woman the option to wear a skirt in their workplace without compromising the comfort, style, or functionality of their scrubs. You can check them out at csaucy.com. That's CSAUCY.com. All right, without further ado, let's get to today's episode. Hi, Ashley. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you here today. I know that you were in St. Louis for a period of time, and that is where we are now. So although we didn't get to live in the same city at the same time, we have similar experiences.
I just missed you. I know. You came in right after I left, I think. So,
Exactly.
yes.
Well, for those of our listeners who don't know who you are, will you just share a little bit about yourself and maybe your current roles in life right now?
Sure. So I spent a period of time in St. Louis. I was in school there actually at Southern Illinois University, and I attended the sanctuary in St. Louis and got a master's degree in biology there. And they hired me on to teach for them. And so I taught anatomy and physiology there at the university for 6 years or so to 400 students a semester in a huge lecture hall, and loved every second of it. And got married in 2016 and moved to Oklahoma and live out here now. And my husband and I serve under Micah and Pebble Wisdom at United Church in Wagner. And we are the curriculum directors. And so we're over all the classes and Sunday school. And we love that. We've got 3 boys, and I'm currently teaching high school at a private Christian school in Tulsa. So it kind of took a little bit of a back road, but I have learned a lot through all of that. I'm also a licensed minister, and so we do a lot with ministry on top of all the secular and children and all the things. So it's always an adventure, always something going on, but I wouldn't have it any other way. So
yeah, awesome. Can you kind of walk that back for us? I know teaching seems to be kind of in your blood in many different ways, but tell us how you kind of got started, maybe what you wanted to do, what your educational path looked like.
Yeah. So initially, I wanted to go to med school, and kind of a lot of things happened. I was very smart going through school in high school, and I kind of just always had this passion for helping people. And so initially, I was going to SIUE for med school,
Okay.
and about, I don't know, 3/4 of the way through my bachelor's degree, I was actually in a practicum doing teaching. Lots of different things had happened, and I literally felt like God closed the door on my heart. I mean, it was the craziest feeling, but the most confident I think I have been in a long time, knowing that I just didn't feel it anymore. It was like the feeling completely left me, and my visions completely changed. Now, in that there was a lot of fear. I was terrified. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, here I'm in school for medical science, crying tears. I mean, just what do? You're in debt. You've got student loans to do this. You think you're going to do all these great things, and now you're kind of stuck. And I had a mentor in the science department there who I trusted. And I just went to her one day and I said, look, you got to help me. I don't know what to do.
Wow.
And she said, have you ever thought about getting a master's degree in biology? She said, your grades are so good, we could just let you walk on. We'll pay for it. We'll let you teach for us. It'll be a wonderful experience. And it was like this peace came over me. I just completely knew that was what I was supposed to do. And so I basically walked in and signed the paperwork and got a master's degree. And it was almost like door after door after door just opened for me. And I tell people that I mentor now, girls, guys, whoever will listen, when you're in college and you're just not sure, you always feel at some point like, man, am I doing the right thing? Am I following the will of God? Am I doing what I feel like God wants me to do? Because you do begin to question some things when you're in there, when you're kind of by yourself and you're trying to live your dream, but there's so many pressures and things. And I said, if you will just follow what you feel like God wants you to do, you just walk when the one door opens. Maybe you don't know what you're doing, but you step when you feel like you're supposed to step. And for me, that was the telltale of my entire college career, where I just walked when I felt like God told me to walk. And I saw God's blessings in all of it. And so there I was in my master's degree, teaching labs. So as a master's student, you teach all the labs for the professors that are there. And that was where I ended up doing my thesis. And in my thesis presentation at the end of my master's degree, they basically were like, we want you to teach for us. I mean, you are wonderful. We've seen everything that you can do. You are the youngest by far of any of the faculty here. This is kind of crazy that we're even wanting you to teach. And I kind of walked in there that next summer like a fish out of water. These people were my teachers, and now I'm brushing shoulders with them, teaching with them. And it was totally bizarre, but it was a God thing. I mean, there was no doubt in my mind that God was in that. And so really kind of a cool thing. But yeah, so teaching was a happenstance thing, but it's my passion. And there is no question that God was in it. And, you think sometimes what you want to do, or at 15, 16, 17, now I know this is what I want to do. But if you will just walk with the Lord a little bit, He has the ability to use your giftings in ways that you never would have imagined. And I really, truly feel like if I would not have, kind of had those moments where I just felt like God closed the door, like, what do I do? And stay sensitive to the path that He puts you on, and be okay with being uncertain for a little bit, I would have never been where I am now. So.
Wow, I love that. And I think it's so true that when you get in a season, I've had the seasons where it seems like I'm pushing on doors and they are just not
Yeah,
opening, and I don't understand because I feel like I'm
I
in the right place.
know.
And then sometimes it's the same type of doors in a different time of
Yeah,
life, and they just fly
yeah,
open and are so right. And so having
they
that
are.
ebb and flow of seasons is so hard in the
Yes.
moment, but you're so right in that if you're just walking
Mm,
with the Lord, it does work out. Just maybe not
right.
how and when we would plan it.
Exactly. The timing thing is always hard as a human, totally, just waiting on Him. His timing is never ours. But, I think just learning to trust and learning to be okay with the wait and learning to be sensitive and just stay the course. I was always told it doesn't matter what you do, but if you can just keep one foot in front of the other and you stay until you're told to move, and, you just keep going, you never go backwards, just keep going, and, things work out. God's faithful. So,
Absolutely. So that season of life where all of a sudden you were thrown into being a professor, you were young, you were
oh, yeah.
not expecting to be there. How did you find
Right.
that? How did you find that comfort, that ability to stand in those 400-person lecture halls and teach?
Well, it definitely was an awe-inspiring thing. Again, my personality kind of gives to it. Like, I enjoy teaching. I mean, I'm real eclectic, I suppose, and just what I do, charismatic maybe. But I think the balance was hard for me
Mhm,
because I did love to have fun, and I love to make teaching fun. But when you're over the whole class, you have to keep control, and you have to have grades, and you have to write tests and all these different things. And I wanted to be everybody's friend. I want everybody to like me, and everybody to enjoy the class, and all these different things. And I just kind of found that I was just trying to be myself.
mhm,
And it sounds crazy, but I've taught about this a few times. I was so uncertain in a way of my abilities because I was young, and
mhm,
I hadn't done this forever. And I knew a little bit about the science, of course. I know I've done all the classes, I've done the coursework, but they don't teach you how to teach. You kind of have to figure some of that out for
mhm,
yourself. And I did probably have my first few semesters were probably a little rocky. But I did have great mentors. And so a few things, it's super spiritual, I
mhm,
guess, but I have always been taught, and Sister Jill Fergie and my pastor's wife and Matt Toon, Judy Dowdy would always say, you just pray it.
Mhm.
You go before it and you pray about it.
Yeah.
And I would walk those halls of that school in the morning early, or I'd late at night, and I would just pray for favor.
Mhm.
And it sounds bizarre and it sounds crazy, but God, I am telling you, when you take the time
Mhm.
to pray about that and allow Him to do the work on that campus, or in your career or in your job, He's so faithful to do it. And I saw thing after thing after thing, but I would pray for favor. I would pray over my office. I would pray over, my relationship with these faculty. And it's so crazy to look back and see how I was respected for who I
Wow.
was. They loved my classes. They'd have me sit in faculty meetings. My voice mattered, and my classes were full.
Mhm.
They're like, we've never seen anything like this. Your classes fill in like 2 days. I would have students sitting outside my office in a line waiting to come in just to talk.
Oh.
Okay. I mean, they would come in, ask for advice. One girl had come in and said, she was, I just don't know what this is, but it just feels different in here. And of course I knew, I'm praying at night. I'm asking God to come in here. This is not just about what we're doing
Mhm.
in the class. Um, but honestly, I learned and gained so much just by God working His work in me. And I think that's where I really started to see what ministry and how it can be in your career. God can use you in these places. And so I tell people, you just never know. You have to be open to what God can do, because He can take your career and use it. He can make you a light and allow you to shine and allow people to feel what you offer through Him. And the teaching thing just kind of came second nature. I mean, I figured it out, but honestly, so much of it was just my presence,
Mhm.
God's presence with me, on that campus. And it was just like people gravitated to it. And looking back, I still stay in contact with so many of these people. And it's so wonderful to see, how they find God in their own
Mhm.
way. And when you're in college, things are so tricky and you're up against pressure, especially in the sciences. You're taught all kinds of things, but these people see
Mhm.
something. And I don't know, I'm a firm believer you can plant seeds, and God will allow those to grow, in their time. But I do feel like it wasn't just about teaching for me. A lot of it was ministry.
Mhm.
But to answer your question, yeah, I don't know. I mean, God was in it, but a lot of it is just you just learn in time. Teaching comes by perseverance, and it comes by, okay, I'm not going to do that again this semester, that kind of thing. Um, the knowledge is there, the
Mhm.
stuff, but I always thought to be what I didn't have as a student.
Mhm.
So we've all sat through classes that we hated and we never want to do it
Oh,
again.
good.
And so for me, I was like, okay, we're going to make this as interesting as we possibly can. The skeleton is not very interesting, but we're going to do the best we can. And so, it was fun for what it was. And, you make jokes and you're nerdy,
For
and it just kind of works itself out.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. Well, what a beautiful picture you painted of just God's presence being with you no matter what you're doing and Him guiding you to a place to be able to use the giftings He's given you. And
yeah.
that statement of just it's God's presence in me. I've felt
Hmm.
the same thing in my counseling, just praying over the room
Right.
before clients come in. And
Yeah.
now I'm blessed to work in a setting where I can be Christian and have my, faith go before me, but it hasn't always been that
Sure.
way. And so I would
Right.
pray over adolescents who are going through some crazy things, and almost the same
Hmm.
thing if they would come in and just say, I don't know what's different in this room,
Yeah.
but there is something different. And it would
Yeah.
just, and there would be times I would say, God, I don't know what words I'm supposed to say right now. So can you just
Sure.
open my mouth
I
and
know.
let me know what to
Yeah.
say? And I would start to speak, and it was like the words would just flow. So I completely understand
Yeah.
what you're saying.
It's an incredible thing when you figure out that God really can work through
Mhm.
you. And we take it for granted, I think, so many times we separate career from what we do on a Sunday. And I think that's a shame, because there's so much we could offer the people around us,
Mhm.
and allow God to move in. And education, it's maybe a little counseling,
Mhm.
it's a little bit easier maybe,
Right.
but medical sciences, you'll see it where people just feel it and they feel the difference. But I think if we all could learn to kind of walk in His presence, we'd be amazed at what He would do for us, through us, in us,
Absolutely. Well, we aren't separate people everywhere we go. We don't take out ourselves at work and then put it back in the box on the
Right.
shelf and put it away until the next time we go there. When God truly lives in us, He's in us no matter
Yes.
where we go and in everything we do and everything we say. And I think that's becoming more evident to the church as we enter this modern day where, with social media and with how connected everyone is, you are you in every sphere of life. It's
Uh-huh.
harder and harder to fake it and have these separate entities everywhere that you go.
It's true. It's
Everyone is
true.
so connected.
Right. I know. It's a scary thing, really, in a way. So
Absolutely. Yeah, you can't get away with much, it feels like.
exactly. It'll haunt you in 10 years. At least I look back on my Facebook posts from 10 years ago, like, what in the world was I thinking?
Yeah,
So it's even worse now.
yeah. I got Facebook probably in high school, and even that is cringy looking back on.
Yes.
But I'm so thankful that I wasn't 10, 11, 12, 13 like
Sure.
you are
I know.
now, because who knows
Yeah.
what.
Lord help us. I know. Just turn it off, people. Turn it off.
Absolutely.
Uh,
So you were at that time single and kind of living on your own here in St. Louis, and then got married and moved. So can you tell us about that transition as someone who was well established in your career and then kind of entering into a family?
yeah. I mean, that was a difficult season, probably a wonderful season, but a difficult season at the same time. Being single is a challenge, I suppose I could use that word. It's a blessed season in a way
Mm,
because you know when to answer to and you have free time and you can use that. And as long as you're using that the best way you can, I think it's a wonderful season. I think people struggle. And I did, I
mm,
had struggles, but I think, I was content to be single. I was 30 and I was happy with what I was
mm,
doing. I was confident in my career. I was doing wonderful. And, this guy comes along and kind of rocks my foundation a little bit. I'm like, oh, well, maybe he's worth moving for, and, the tears were shed, I think, because I loved my church and I
mm,
loved my career and I mean, these people were family to me.
mm,
I didn't have family close. And, there were a number of families that I will never forget and will forever be indebted to and love just like my own family.
mm,
But I think again, I knew that I had prayed and prayed and prayed, God, if it's your will, if this is what you want for me, let me be sensitive to whatever that change might be. And
mhm.
so if you're going to do it, let me be okay with
Yeah.
that. And Jonathan and I talked for 2 years before we even thought about, making those changes because for me it was huge. He has two boys. I was walking into then being a mom as well.
Mm,
And there were some changes I personally was going to have to
mm,
make. It wasn't just going to be me and him. We were starting off as a family.
yeah.
And, I came from a broken home. And so that has a special place in my heart. I
Mm,
knew that I could be good in that role. I knew that if God had opened the door that he had prepared me already for it,
mhm,
all the things worked out. We didn't, all of our pastors, everything was lined up. We had absolute counsel. But I think in specifically the transition,
mhm.
um, it was hard because I went from having a career to having nothing.
Wow.
And so, I moved out here to Tulsa and I didn't know where to start. I
Mm,
didn't know anyone, and so the career part was probably the most challenging
mm,
because that was my identity. That was what I did. That was everybody I would walk on that campus. Everybody knew my
mm,
name. I mean, it's wonderful. It's elation all the time. You just always, it was wonderful. And, to go then and not have that, I felt so much like, again, God was in it though.
mhm.
Like I knew that I had to make the sacrifice because there was something greater for me
Yeah.
now, aside from me leading these massive amount of
Mhm.
students. Now I was going to raise a family. And that's exactly what God has done. And I taught adjunct here at the community college for a few years. I did another job with some hospital work that I did not love.
Mm,
And again, my heart wasn't in it. You just kind of know. And again, just last year, I was just praying. I hadn't been teaching. I had Maverick, and I took some time off to raise my baby, and I just kind of got to the point where he's old enough. I'd really like to go back to work,
Mhm.
and I'm again, you miss it. You feel like God gives you a calling and a love, and I love teaching, and I love what I do, and I had this opportunity to teach at this high school, and I was like, my word, I don't know if I can teach ninth grade. Like all I've taught is college, where you can just tell them to be quiet, they be quiet. Now I'm dealing with parents and all these things, but it has been an incredibly glorious experience for me. I'm at an institution where they pray before every meeting, and they believe in teaching the Word of God with your science. It's the most crazy. I've never even had anything like
Wow.
that. In fact, I had a evaluation recently, and the president was like, "But I need you to teach more Bible in your biology class." And I was like, "What?
Yes, I can.
What kind of a thing is that? What are you suggesting to me? I've never done this before." Because you can't even mention it on the college campus, and
Right.
so it's been some adjustment. So, I think transition is so difficult for so many
Mhm.
reasons, but we got married on the account that we would keep God at the center of everything we
Mhm.
did and do. And I think that is the only way you manage it
Yeah.
well. You've got to trust that where God brings you, that He's going to bring you through, that He is going to bless that. And I would not suggest to everybody that moving across the country is a good thing. Not everybody could probably do that. I moved further from my biological
Mhm.
family, and just everything I
Yeah.
knew. Um, but again, He's opened up doors, and He's allowed us a ministry here. And at this point, I don't know if I could imagine my life anywhere else. What we do here, we're sold out in, and we're grateful for. And it's been a blessed ride for sure. But again, taking that initial leap,
Mhm.
I cried all the way. I remember the last drive when I finally pulled out of St. Louis, and I cried until Joplin.
Mhm.
Okay, like all the way. That's 4 hours or so, all the way
Yeah.
through, and I finally pulled it together. I got pulled over by a cop that
Um,
night too, but it's fine. But it's just one of those things where it was hard for me, but I think knowing that God has something intended for you is the key.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what you're speaking to is so relevant, especially for women in a career path, because it's not the case all the time, but for many of us, we have a lot of stops and starts because, be it, motherhood, getting married,
Yeah,
or,
yeah.
just different life seasons, we tend to not have a straight line forward in a career path. At least for maybe the
Right.
large majority of us. And so having
Yeah,
that common
right.
theme of trust and knowing that you are still you, even when
Yeah,
you
yeah.
are stripped away of everything that
Mhm.
was God ordained in your life. Because for you, it was
Yeah,
God put you there. He,
yeah,
clearly
yeah.
called you to be what you were doing right at that moment. And then it was taken away
Right.
and not replaced just
Yeah,
right away in that same arena. Of course, motherhood
right.
and stepping in and ministry and
Sure.
all of that, but it wasn't quite the same thing that you were doing before. But he
Mhm.
still had you.
Yeah, yeah. I'm always amazed at how it looks different than you think it's going to look. And I think that's what we have to be, especially as moms.
Mhm.
Or, I have been told so many times in my motherhood journey that do not take these moments for
Mhm.
granted, because there's so many things that are happening that you don't know about in your kids
Mhm.
and the little things that you do. I sing Maverick songs when he goes to bed, but I sing old songs like In the Presence of Jehovah and all
Mhm.
these songs. And I just firmly believe that it's these little things that maybe I'm not leading 400 people, but you know what? These boys that I'm trying to raise are going to be godly men. And that is my responsibility right now. So seasons change, and I think we discredit ourselves sometimes
Mhm.
and as mothers in the midst of that. But I've learned to try to not to, because I think that these moments that I have at home are just as special as those moments I had or do have raising these students,
Sure.
to be educated individuals. But you know what? My most important objective is making sure my kids make it to heaven. And I think
Mhm.
we take that for granted sometimes, and we think less of ourselves because we're not out doing this or doing that. But never discredit, the place God has you in, because there's a reason you're in that place, and if we could kind of change our mindset sometimes, we could really find a blessing, I think, in the midst of that.
Absolutely. There was a message I heard years ago, and it has stuck with me ever since. And the speaker just kept saying, I'm content in my season. And
Yeah.
I tell myself that often, as I'm right now sitting on the floor with my 3-month-old in my hand and my toddlers, asking for the same thing for the
Yeah.
20th time or whatever.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Lord help
to
us.
the point of like banging my head against the wall. I'm content
Yeah.
in my
Yeah. I
season,
get
and
it.
this is important and valuable, even if it may not seem like it on the surface. And raising
Sure.
raising healthy kids I don't think there's
Hmm.
any greater calling than that, or any better way to,
No,
as a teacher, prepare the future and have the
it's true.
future in good hands than to start within your four walls at home. Um, but
Yeah.
you're right, we can kind of get our eyes
Absolutely.
off the prize and feel like, well, I'm not, what am I doing here? I'm just at home. Just,
Yeah, exactly. I
connecting to
know. It's real. Those feelings are real. They happen.
they do. Yes, I know. I made, I think, 3 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches today. So by the third,
I mean, I know. It's just, I know. I had really good intentions, doing a lot of things right, but sometimes Dr. Pepper is okay. You just let it go. You just let him have it because it's just easier. I don't know. We pray of him really hard, so it works
exactly,
out.
exactly. The saying, the days are long, but the years are short, has never been. I've kind
Yes.
of rolled my eyes at people who say that, or enjoy every moment, and it's like, yeah, yeah, until you get
Yes.
in it, and it's very true. Um,
Struggle.
Absolutely. So now you are working in ministry and teaching, being at home. How do you find that balance between, the ministry aspect and the teaching aspect, and making time for your family? I know that's something that we all kind of struggle with and maybe deal with in different ways.
Yeah, I wish I had like the perfect thing to say about balance, but it is the most difficult thing I think I have to
Mhm.
do is balance. For me, I am a strict calendar
Big.
follower. And I just have to have everything lined out. And in fact, if I don't get you on my calendar, it's probably going to be hard. And I hate that about myself, but just the way our world works over here. I mean, we are running from thing to thing because I live in Wagner. I work in Tulsa,
Mhm.
which is a 35-minute drive. And so you're kind of back and forth, but I think I have learned to say yes to the things I feel like I need to say yes to, and I've had to learn to say no to some things
Mhm.
too. And I think that's the key to balance. And every family is going to look
Mhm.
different, and we try to do a really good job of saying family first.
Mhm.
I know, we serve in ministry and we do all these things, but you know obviously God, okay, and we take care of our family, and then we make sure our family goes together to church. And so I think you just got to figure out how your career is going to balance with everything else. But I don't have a lot of free time. There's not a lot of downtime necessarily.
Mhm.
I make sure my babies are in bed when they need to be in bed because they're happier that
Mhm.
way. And I try to have some time at night to read or to do whatever I need to do. But honestly, I just try to fit things in the car line when I'm sitting for waiting on my kids. I have my laptop and I try to grade, or I try to prepare a message I've got to teach on, or whatever I'm doing. And so I try to be really proactive about my time. And so I'll get up early one day, or
Mhm.
I'll extra early, or and just fit things in. But I don't know. I fail sometimes. I'm so tired tonight. I mean, it's just been a really long week already. And so, I think sometimes you gotta sleep. You gotta take care of yourself.
Mhm.
But I believe, you know, you have to do you. You've got to make sure you're okay, and you have what you need so you can fulfill the
Mhm.
needs of your family. But I only work part time. I work like 9 to noon, and I think that's important for my family right
Mhm.
now. I don't think I could work full time, and so I think again, you got to figure out what works for you. But I learned really quick what didn't work for my family. And I was teaching nights, and that did not work. It was a total disaster. And so I knew right then and there, this balance is not going to work. So I think, if you're feeling the stress from every area at home, you got to figure out what will work. If that means cut back on, certain things so you don't have to work a full-time job, then you do that and you figure it out. I feel bad. I was raised, in a home where we didn't have a lot of money.
Mhm.
And so, but both my parents worked and we were home all night, a lot of times by ourselves. And I didn't want that for my kids. And so, we took some back steps here and there and we, figured out what we had to do.
Yeah.
But balance is hard, but you have to, do what's best for your family, I think.
Absolutely. I think there comes a point where every decision you make impacts more than just you. And I
Absolutely.
tend to be one who loves to say yes. I want to be
Yeah.
involved and I want to
Mhm.
have hobbies and creative outlets and jump on something just because I feel like I have something to
I
contribute
know.
and
I
it would
know.
be fun. But at
Yes.
times when I say yes, it's my family who suffers, it's my job who
Mhm.
suffers, or
Yeah.
I suffer because I'm not sleeping or I'm just powering through. And I think it's easier to
Yeah.
just say, no, I can do it, I can do it. But it
I
really
know.
does have a ripple effect, and learning
Yeah.
to be able to say no, um,
Yeah.
is important, and it's okay. It's okay to say no,
Yeah.
and it's okay.
We have to learn that part. It's hard to say it, but when you are trying to balance a million things, me at my worst, because I'm trying to take on too much, is not pretty for anyone.
Yeah.
And so, you know what I mean? I have just learned that through my life. And my husband asks me to say no sometimes because he knows what it's like around here. If we have too many things going on, it's chaos. And so, but again, being in ministry is the highlight of our lives. And, I do everything we can to say yes to things
Mhm.
and we make time for that, but I do think we can be bogged down by saying yes to every single thing. And then we come home and nothing to give our family,
Yeah,
nothing to give our kids. And I have just decided I don't want my kids to suffer at the expense of my yeses, and so
yeah,
there's a balance. And I think we just as moms have to be sensitive to that.
absolutely. Well, I love everything that you've said. If you have any advice you could give to women who are just starting out or who kind of are trying to find their path still, could you give them just maybe what you've learned or something that God has taught you along the way?
Yeah, I think well, prayer is key, and I think that's underrated. I think we take it for granted so many times, but a lot can happen in one moment
Mhm.
that you can try to figure out on your own for days. And I have learned that sometimes I just got to take it to the Lord. And so when you're battling, when you're frustrated, when you're confused, when you're sitting there in fear and anxiety,
Mhm.
we just have to learn to take it to him. And when we do, we'll find that peace that passes all understanding will meet us there. And I think that's probably the theme of my entire life, through transition, through questions, through successes. It's always been prayer. And
Mhm.
I think, keeping a relationship with him and allowing him to walk with you enables you to get through all those things and to get through all those transitions. And so don't take that for granted. Turn the phone off, spend some time, get in the word, read a book, better yourself so that you have something to give somebody else. I think so often we're so concerned about everybody else that we forget ourselves. But I
Mhm.
think we do have to pay attention to what we need
Yeah.
to, when we have nothing to give, it doesn't help us at all,
Yeah.
right? We need to work out, we need to exercise, we need to eat right, we need to, to do the best we
Mhm.
can so that we feel the best we can. But never doubt where he's got you, never doubt the season,
Mhm.
never doubt, the place that you're in, because there is something that you're supposed to either give in that season or get in that
Mhm.
season. And it doesn't always make sense, and it can be frustrating, and it can really make you mad. But I have learned to just always look around
Mhm.
in the seasons that I'm in, the ones that don't, that I wish I weren't in, but there's something that I'm either going to get or I'm supposed to give. And so, I believe in women. I believe in women in ministry. I
Mhm.
believe in women who are giving of themselves in their careers and trying to live for God. And power to the people, right? I'm proud of everybody that's giving of themselves, but there's a purpose in every day,
Mhm.
as we walk with him, we walk in the light. We are going to reach this world, and we're going to do it together by standing up and doing the right things, and getting out there in our world and doing what we do best. So
Yeah, absolutely. What a beautiful message. Just God has purpose in every day, and sometimes it's to give, of ourselves and what he's taught us and how he's planted us there. And sometimes the season is to plant something in us that will grow later on. So I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to end with a question that we ask everybody who comes on the podcast. So whatever comes to mind, it can be just your knee-jerk response. So
Okay.
what is saving your life right now?
Oh man. Alani drinks, and I'm not proud of that, but literally saving my life. Yeah, it's bad. I know. Don't criticize me, okay? I know the biology is bad, but it's just I need them. Yes, saving my life every day right now.
Absolutely. You know, sometimes you just need what you need in that season, and whether it's the Dr. Pepper or now our most common answer is coffee. So clearly, you know, we all kind of have the same.
Second best. I do coffee first usually. That's at the top. Yeah, but they're just my afternoon savior right now, so it's good.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time tonight. We really appreciate you speaking life to us and sharing some of your wisdom and knowledge that you've gleaned along the way.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. Bye.